Hey, this is take 2 of hospitality. You can't really go wrong with live, right? So we're gonna try this again. We're gonna re-record it because, quite honestly, the first take sucked. And if you're gonna call something "Be Honest, Don't Suck," you really should not suck. So we're gonna share this out. We're gonna see if anybody else wants to come along for a ride, and we're gonna go from there. We're rolling. Yeah. Live podcasting. I like it. All right. So let's whoa, that was crazy. We'll see how this goes here. So we're gonna go ahead and hit record and try this again. Sound good? All right. Welcome to Be Awesome, Don't Suck. I am your host, Dan Rose. Glad you're here with me this week. And just so you podcast types know, we're trying something a little different where we're rolling YouTube Live. And I'll share that link later in the description here of the podcast. But glad you're listening. Glad you're with me again this week. It's a big week in the Rose household. We are getting ready for a big football game this week. And a lot of nervous anxiety kind of stuff going on in our house. It's Ypsilanti versus Saline. And if you know anything about our local football scene, those are two, Ypsilanti Lincoln and Saline are two of the best programs in the area, and Saline is kind of consistently thought of being the best football team in the Ann Arbor area and one of the best teams in the state of Michigan, and they've really backed it up. But our boys from Lincoln get a shot at them this year on our home field, and we are really looking forward to seeing how they go and how this game goes. Ethan, my son, is the quarterback, and so that just brings a whole new level of fun and excitement to this deal. So my mind is a little bit scattered coming into today's podcast. I've already recorded this once, and it sucked. So I deleted it, and we're gonna start again and see how we go. Usually I'm the guy that says, hey, let's just do it. Let's get it done. Let's get it published. And but sometimes something's so bad and so lousy that you got to hit the delete and restart. So that's where we're at. We're gonna roll here. And this week, what I want to talk about is hospitality. And especially in conjunction with this idea of what it means to love your neighbor as yourself. One of those big commandments that Jesus talks about. So where to begin? Well, I think the best place to start is when we started the Antioch movement here in Ypsilanti, and we started it. We're doing things different, right? We're different in the sense that not normal type of church planting that's been done in the United States for the last 45 or 50 years, and that we're not following an attractional model, we're not following a launch large model, but we're following a model that is based in discipleship, based in the neighborhood, based in the home. And while that's historically the normal way to launch and plant a local congregation in an area, for the last 50 years in the United States, that hasn't been the case. And so as we've pursued this, as we tried to go about doing this, we've had a lot of people ask us, how did you start? How did you get people into your house? And how did you begin to build those relationships? And we just laugh because the way we started was with a party. Simple as that. We threw a party. It was our first winter here in our house in the neighborhood, and we threw a Christmas party. We called it the Holiday Party of Awesomeness. And I think we ended up pulling it off for 3 years. The first 2 years were right before Christmas, and man, that first year was crazy, just a crazy party. I think 3/4 of our neighborhood showed up. There were little kids running all over the place. It was absolutely wild and way too much fun. Until we painted this room behind me, we had crayon marks left over from that party. That first Christmas we were here in the house. The second year, another great turnout. The third year, it was like everybody was sick. And so we said, well, I guess we're not going to do it over Christmas. We will move the holiday party of awesomeness to St. Patrick's Day. And that was awesome. So how did we start our church? How did we start the Antioch movement? We started with a party. We threw a big party, and man, it was so much fun. And I got to tell you, there is a truism in ministry which goes, you keep people the way you get people. And and we got people by throwing a party. And I got to tell you, that's how we've kept people. We just keep throwing parties. Basically, it seems like every Sunday is a party in our house, at least over dinner before we open the scriptures. But even then, there's still laughing and talking and engagement. It's not, me giving some sort of monologue, which is part of the reason I do this little podcast deal, because it allows me to get some of that preacher out of me, where I can talk a little bit without questions. On Sundays, I love the questions. That is, to me, the best way to have a sermon is where people are asking questions and I'm asking questions and we're talking and we're discussing and we're in the scriptures together as a community, right? And so if you keep people the way you get people, and the way we got people was through parties, the way we're going to keep people is through more parties. And so we're just going to keep throwing parties, and that's just going to be what we do. And so we've been at this now for a little over 5 years, and the way that the whole party thing has morphed has been interesting to see. It used to be that, those first 3 years we hosted the parties. Other people have started hosting parties. So now in our neighborhood, there's a 4th of July party with an epic fireworks show. There's a Labor Day party. There are people who throw movie parties in our neighborhood, where they set up huge screens outside with projectors and the whole deal and a sound system. And it's like a drive-in in the backyards of people in our neighborhood. And it's just awesome. But it's another party. These past couple of weeks now that the high school football season is on, Amy and I are throwing parties on Friday nights at whatever high school the game is being played at. And then this past Sunday night, somebody who's not really thrown a big neighborhood party threw a big neighborhood party, and it was epic and it was awesome. And it was just so much fun to see our whole neighborhood come together and laugh and talk and just be together for an evening before school, the grind of school started. The kids were laughing and running around and just being hilarious. And man, I got to tell you, what a great way to end the summer, but to end it at a party. And to see people who are part of our congregation and people who are not a part of our congregation, just people in our neighborhood and our community laughing and dancing and singing and eating great food and enjoying a beverage or two. And it's just an amazing night. And that's how we started this whole thing. That's how we started the Antioch movement, was with a party. And that's how we're continuing the Antioch movement, is with a party. Is with parties. We just keep doing it over and over and over again. A party here, a party there. Let's do a party. You want to get something started? Let's have a party. Let's throw another party. And I gotta tell you, to be leading a ministry that's all about having parties, to be living that way, it is so much fun. And it's also given me a little bit of insight, I think, into what Jesus was doing in his ministry. As I read through the Gospels, I'm shocked by how often it says, and Jesus went to their home and ate with them. That Jesus went to their home and ate with them. That Jesus went to their home and ate. It's like everywhere. Jesus seems to be constantly eating through the Gospels. He eats his way through and parties his way through his life and ministry. And there's just something about people getting around a table together and talking and laughing and eating. You just can't quite replicate that any other way, right? I mean, there is an intimacy about sitting around a table and having dinner together or having lunch together, having breakfast together, that is very difficult to duplicate or replicate in another setting. There's something very personal about it. And in those times, you're able to have some pretty significant conversations. Sometimes they're surface, but sometimes they go deeper. And sometimes there's great reflection. And as you eat with people, as people sit around your table in your home, you begin to love them. You begin to care for them at a level that maybe you wouldn't have otherwise. You know, on Sunday nights when everybody comes over, yeah, it's great to open the scriptures. But that evening is marked by two tables. There's the dinner table where we get around it and we laugh and we talk and we tell stories for the week and we make fun of each other and we just open our lives. And then there's the Lord's table at the end where we stand around and we talk and we laugh and we invite each other in and we talk about the weighty things and some of the heavy things that go on in our lives that we need people to pray for and we need people to enter in with us about. So an entire evening every week marked by two tables, the dinner table and the Lord's table, my table and his table. And so over the course of the last few years, I've been learning some things about hospitality, and at the root of it, what I've become convinced of is that hospitality is absolutely mission critical and central to really coming to the place to be able to say that I love my neighbor as myself. That's simple. You know, two great commandments, right? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. And I think American Christianity that I've been around, has done a great job of figuring out the love the Lord your God with all your mind. Man, I got bookshelves just filled with books. For those of you on the live video stream, I got tons of books. Books. There are tons of podcasts just like this one. There are free seminary classes that you can take online. Man, we can figure out how to love the Lord our God with all of our mind, all of our strength, all of our soul. I think some of that we need to work on, and that's another conversation for another time. And recently, there's been some conversation about what does it mean to love your neighbor as yourself, and some people are tagging all kinds of different words and phrases to it, and as a result of those different words and phrases and ideas getting tagged on to love your neighbor as yourself, what we're finding is certain people are saying, well, that's not gospel. You're adding law to it. You're making it legalistic. You know, you're entering in, or you're engaging in social gospel or social justice. Are you a social justice warrior? Like, these are all bad words or bad ideas. And man, that is so not it. We when you start to invite people into your home and around your table, and you start practicing this thing called hospitality, what happens is you start to figure out how deeply you love people. And you start to begin to catch a glimpse of what Jesus means when he says, love your neighbor as yourself. And that's what I think we need to be more about. We need to think if we could start figuring out what it means to love our neighbor as ourselves, then some of the love of the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength would come along with it. I really do. Because when we start learning our neighbors, and we start getting to know our neighbors, we begin to see the image of God in them. We begin to see who they are at the core of their being. And we begin to see the reality that God cares for them. And if he cares for them and he cares for us, we begin to see that God is worth loving. And if God's worth loving, then he's worth loving with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength. What's interesting to me is loving the Lord your God with all your heart and soul goes beyond just some intellectual capacity kind of situation. It must be embodied. And this is where the love your neighbor as yourself comes in. It's something that we have to live out. It's something that we have to engage in with all of who we are. We can't just engage that with a mind thing. We can't just engage that by writing some blog posts or doing some sort of podcast. No, we do that. We love the Lord. We love our neighbor as ourselves by inviting them into our lives. But to do that, we have to do a couple of things. First, I think what I'm learning is that I have to know who I am. If I'm going to love my neighbor as myself, I need to know myself. Who am I? What are the things that I'm passionate about? What are the things that drive me crazy? What are the things that I love? What are the things that I hate? Who am I? And as I come to understand who I am, then I can invite other people in. I can begin to love them for who they are. Because it's very hard to love somebody else if you don't have a sense of self, if you don't have a sense of identity. And in our world, self-identity is something that's really hard to come by because there's so many competing visions and versions and ideas of what it is that we're supposed to be. So I've had to come to that conclusion. And this is going to sound very, very shallow, and I'm okay with that. But here's one of the things that I've learned about myself. I like sports. I really do. I enjoy watching sports. I like watching baseball. I like watching hockey. I like watching football. It's fun. It's a great time. And so you know what I've started doing very intentionally is inviting other people into that love with me. I'm saying, hey, Friday night, high school football games. You know what? I'm going to tailgate. Come on out. Have fun with me. That's hospitality. Hey, Saturdays, I'm watching Michigan play football. Why don't you bring some snacks, bring a beverage or two, and let's watch some football together. It's hospitality. Hey, the Red Wings are playing the stupid Maple Leafs tonight. Why don't you bring some Molson over and we'll sit around and we'll watch the hockey game. Hospitality. Notice in hospitality, I'm not doing anything I don't want to do. I'm doing the very thing that I love to do, and I'm simply inviting other people in with me. That's hospitality. I think we've got this idea of hospitality that's something so big and something so hard to do that we're afraid to do it. But it's not. It's simply knowing who I am, knowing what I like, and inviting other people to do it with me. And guess what I like to do? I also like to eat. I know that's surprising. Me as a guy who's, overweight, I'm chubby, I'm working on it, I'm getting better, I'm getting a little thinner here and there. But you know what? I like to eat. And so you know what I've started doing? I've started inviting people in. Come do that with me. Eat with me. Have a meal with me. Sunday nights, we open our home, and people come have a meal with us every Sunday night. So that's hospitality. Along with figuring out who I am, I have to figure out who my neighbor is. And what I've become convinced of is this. My neighbor is any person who is in my sphere of influence. Any person that I come in contact with throughout the regular course of my life is my neighbor. The consequences of that are kind of big, right? So my neighbors are the people that live to the left and right of me. They live in front of me. They live behind me. They live around me. They live down the corner from me. They are the people whose kids go to my kids' school. They are the people who I sit next to in the stands at football games. They are the gas station attendant. They are my barista. They are my bartender. They are my kids' teachers. They are the people who go to church at the big mega church that I work part-time at. They are my family. They are my kids' friends. These are all my neighbors. And as a result, these are the people who I need to practice hospitality with. And so to practice hospitality with them means I simply just need to invite them into my life and come do the things that I want to do. Now, if I really want to love them, if I want to continue down that love them train of thought, that love them path, then what it means is every once in a while, I look for ways to serve. I look for ways maybe that I can demonstrate my love for them by moving into their lives and doing some things that they like to do when they invite me in. Because here's the deal. Sometimes we think hospitality is only inviting other people into our lives. Well, that's part of it. We do. I need to invite people into my life, and that's hospitality. But hospitality goes the other way too. When other people invite me into their lives, I need to go. I need to say yes. Could you imagine if I just kept inviting people in and they kept saying no? Guess what I'm going to stop doing? I'm going to stop inviting them in. And I can't. There won't be any hospitality if the person I invite doesn't also come. And so when somebody invites me in, I have to go. Notice that in Jesus' life and ministry, right? If you read through the Gospels, you see him coming and going. There are times when he invites himself in. There are times when other people invite him and he goes. We need to do the same thing. With the people who are our neighbors, we invite them in and they invite us in. So when we invite them in, hopefully they come. When they invite us in, we need to go. We need to say yes. Our default position needs to be, yeah, I'll go. Let's go. That'll be fun. Even if you don't think it's fun, you still go. And you know what? Just by being with them and loving them, some of these things that you don't think would be fun become fun. I remember one of my neighbors was doing some work on his house, and I hate working on houses. I hate doing that kind of stuff. That is not fun for me. But my dude said, "Hey, will you come down and help me?" And so I did, and it was fun. We had a great time. I laughed really, really hard, and it was a really great time doing something that I hate. But he invited me in, and so I went. He practiced hospitality, and so hospitality and loving your neighbor as yourself, the second great commandment, they go hand in hand. I am absolutely convinced that we can't love our neighbors as ourselves apart from hospitality. We can't. So here's what I want you to do. Here's what I don't know. Here's what, if you listen to this podcast or if you're watching this on the whole YouTube thing that I'm trying, try this week. Take one of your 21 meals, right? 7 days, 21 meals. Take one of those and invite somebody to be a part of that with you. So if you go to an office every day, or you go to work every day, you go someplace for work every day, invite one of your coworkers to go to lunch with you. And if you're bringing lunch, like if you're like, hey, I'm not spending money at lunch, then pack an extra lunch. Say, hey, I made lunch for 2. Why don't you come with me? Come hang out with me today. Don't just eat at your desk every single day this week. Maybe that's not how you roll. Maybe you don't have coworkers that are like that. Then invite one of your neighbors to come over and have dinner with you and your family, or brunch on Sunday or something. But take one meal this week and invite somebody in. See what happens. Just see what happens. And if somebody asks you, say yes. Say yes one time this week to somebody who invites you to something else, to something that's not your deal. So I want you, what I hope maybe we as a people who call ourselves Christians can begin to practice is come and go. Maybe we can begin to practice this idea of come and go, because come and go is hospitality. Right? Invite people to come, and when they invite you, you go. So maybe we can try this together this week. And hey, if you take on this little challenge or this little experiment, hit me up on Twitter and tell me how it's going. What kind of conversations, what kind of relationships are you beginning to build with people you're trying to practice hospitality with neighbors that you are learning to love as yourself? And you can hit me up there at Daniel M. Rose. And let's continue the conversation. Thanks for listening. Thanks for bearing with me this week as I'm maybe sounding a little bit awkward or whatever as I'm trying this whole live video thing. And I'll make sure to share that link too. You can see what it looks like. It's really just me talking. So if you've ever wondered what it looks like for me to talk into a microphone, you could check it out on YouTube Live. And but again, guys, really appreciate you listening this week. And let's continue the conversation at Daniel M. Rose on Twitter. Thanks, guys. Have a great week. Hey, that was better, right? Right, YouTube Live? That was better. So, hey, if you dig this, share the video with somebody. I'd really appreciate it. And maybe we can continue the conversation here in YouTube comments, or again, hit me up on Twitter at Daniel M. Rose. Thanks again for watching, guys, and we'll see you next week.